All right, let's see.
Okay.
It looks like we are live.
Woohoo!
All right, we finally made it. A
Party
couple
on.
minutes late, but we made it. All right. Well, I am joined today by Sean and Hank, and we're going to be talking about our five favorite albums from 1976. And I'm going to let Sean start. So,
Oh my God. My first pick is the Italian band Picchio dal Pazzo, self-titled. There are no lyrics. The songs are called Session A, B, C, D, and E, one of which I dearly loved because I used it for my 2-minute drill. It fit on a toy recorder that was made for kids at a Toys R Us. And if I had something to go do in the ice cold basement in the middle of the winter, I would start that thing and know if the music was gone, I'd better be close behind. But uh, I would say Italian, Canterbury leaning Prague, uh, a lot of minimalism. It uh, humor and austerity coexist in this music. It's sort of like a Warner Brothers soundtrack in a way, where Bugs be struggling and then suddenly he's got the upper hand. I found that it was very good collective writing, that they definitely had their own niche, and there was an outpouring of energy that wasn't interrupted by message, which so many truly prog bands based music around. This pure soundscape, not the Berlin school, but the Italian, hey guys, we got an education in music before we started, like PFM, as opposed to most American rock of the era, which was, ooh, you got a guitar? I got drums in the garage. Let's start a band.
right.
So um, they are up on uh, YouTube, and you can do a query and find all 5 tracks. I think that's a good enough introduction from there.
Sounds good. I don't know that band, but I'll definitely look into it.
I'll send the link later because right now I'm using my phone to read my notes.
Well, my
Okay.
experience is the Italian bands have been incredible, anyone that I've seen, so we'll definitely take that tip and give it a listen.
Good.
All
There'll be
right,
a
you're
few
up,
more.
Hank.
Hank?
Well, I'm going to go with just kind of the generic one to start off with because that happened to be, and Ron, this is why I jumped in so quickly for 1976. That was the year that my mind opened up to the world beyond the AM radio sitting on our kitchen counter.
Right.
And I was doing yard work for a friend of my dad's, and I finished early. And he said, "You know, your mom's not going to be here for a while, and let's put your head here between these Klipsch Heresy speakers." And he put on Trick of the Tail,
Oh, I
Oh,
love
yeah.
and up to that moment, I had only really been exposed to, well, certainly Elton John and any of the other adult contemporary rock. I was just a 14-year-old kid at the time and just kind of getting into all that. And Trick of the Tail blew my mind. And I'm cheating on this because, in one sense, yes, that album came out in '76, but I have to treat it as a double album because the very next day I took the money from that yard work and went to the record store, and they didn't have. Well, they didn't have Trick of the Tail. They were sold out. But what they did have was the brand new released Wind and Wuthering. So within a 24-hour period, I listened to both of those albums. So in my mind, they're a double album.
Right.
The peak of, you can get into Gabriel Collins era, but I think
Right.
the musicianship of what was remaining of Genesis was at their creative peak for those two albums. And it just, that opened the door to me that I don't have to listen to AM radio. And I think was even alluded to by one of the other people prepping for this that, God, we had, Boston and Fleetwood Mac and Peter Frampton and, so much was coming out at the time. But for me, it was the pair of Genesis and Trick of the Tail and Wind and Wuthering to start that off. It just, the storytelling, the bass pedals, the guitars, the keyboards, all of it is, you can't say enough about it.
Oh yeah.
I saw the concert when that album came out in Austin, Texas.
Oh.
And I was so energized that I had to go out for a run. And there's one intersection that used to be two-way on the side street that is now only one-way. Because a marriage counselor ran into me, and I had to flip over the car and ended up in the adjacent street.
Oh, dang.
So, but it was worth every second to see that show live.
Well, it sounds like you, as the song says, you better start doing it right.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
All right. Well, my first one, I personally like to show the album covers so people, if they, Bebop Deluxe Sunburst Finish. I got into them because a friend of mine on my old website, prognaut.com, he ran out of things to review, and he asked me if he could do archival stuff, and I said, sure, you can review whatever you want. So we reviewed a bunch of Bebop Deluxe and some other bands, and I liked what he said about it, and it said, I don't know these guys. He sent me out a cassette. We haven't gotten to the CD burning stage yet, and I listened to it, and I was like going, oh wow. And just last year they put out like two compilation box sets of all the albums, the studio and the one live album, and this one I think seems to be more prog leaning than the others. We have the first one that was more glam rock leaning, and the final album was more like a proto new wave leaning. So it's like they never was able to pigeonhole them, and they think that the guy Bill Nelson said, he said that's probably why we weren't as successful as our peers. It was like we were a musicians band, musicians knew of us, the charts did. And but his guitar playing is amazing. I mean, I think he's one of the most underrated guitarists of the '70s. This is actually, out of all the Bebop Deluxe, this is my favorite. I mean, but they all or the Great Unknown Wave.
Hmm.
Um, the box sets that I was telling you about, they come, I think they're like $25 each. So it's like, it's in one of those clamshell box. And the only thing is, it's in these little paper thin
Yeah.
mini replica LP things. And some people I know don't like that, but it's like for $25, you're getting, and for basically $50, you're getting 6 albums.
Well,
Yeah.
Can't beat that.
my suggestion is that you are saving shelf space.
True, that too.
I've noticed that old DVD game boxes and things like that can take up the space of a half a dozen albums on the right cover.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's the one thing, and that's why I'm really thankful that I got. I mean, as you see, it's like pretty loaded right now, and I need more. I need more shelves. But so that's my first choice.
Yeah, we've got to maybe look at a GoFundMe page for a home storage RAID array for you. You can fit a lot of those on the shelf.
Yeah,
And
I
I'm
need another. I need
not
another house.
necessarily where all the music came from, but it's nice to be able to find it at the touch of a button.
True.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
okay.
right, you're up. You're back.
I'm back.
Yep.
Well, in keeping with the Olympic theme, Banco, Come in un'ultima cena from 76. Banco, if you consider at first the parallel between Italian musicians versus rock musicians, well, these guys were not only trained as Italian musicians, but they go one step higher in that they worked in opera. And so, granted, the singer they had probably came in at about 450 pounds,
Right.
but that guy had pipes. When he sang something, you heard it. You often got the message, even if you knew no Italian.
Mhm.
Right.
And in this particular album, they are talking about becoming the ultimate power. And so they want to empower everyone to push them to be their very best, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I've run several hundred miles listening to this thing. It's symphonic, it's liturgical, it's dramatic, it's for theater prog. But Dia Giacomo's operatic phrasing really dominates the whole album. And it's just kind of it's a positive message that you usually didn't get in the age of revolution. That's what I really liked about it. It wasn't damning anything, but it was driving one home. There's real beauty in it. The original album held some of that, but kind of got lost in the message a little bit. Sort of like what happened to PFM when they went to Manticore.
Oh,
which is why the Chocolate Kings did not make my list. And unfortunately, both Wind and Weathering and Trick of the Tail were in my special notice. And you guys gave a little bit of background about your music. My dad played a lot of Rio. I listened to the Beatles the first time they were on TV on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Right.
I got my first guitar because of the Monkees. I was relentless and would not let my parents keep getting me the guitar. And then I found out that the guitar I got was the same model that Glenn Campbell and Jimi Hendrix both started with.
Well, that's
Now
cool.
I have maybe 7 guitars, a bass, and a 5-string cello, but it got cold this winter that the high string broke. And I'm of guitar strings. Since prices have gone up, it's $250 to get a new set of strings for the cello.
Wow.
First album I bought was Yellow Submarine when it was released, followed by Iron Butterfly, Ball, and finally I came to my senses and got a copy of Freak Out. And I've been a big Zappa fan ever since. So I think I'm all caught up on that one. We're not doing too bad for time. So let's toss it back.
All right, Hank, you're up.
All right. Well, since I did the twofer on the first one, my next one is going to be one that I didn't experience in the moment, but for 1976, for at least me, I can't. And Ron, I'm going to do your album cover thing here, and you might recognize that little logo right there. 2112 just is, and some people say, oh, are they prog? No, they bring that edgier side into prog. And the funny part is I had never, ever, ever, I was sitting in the school parking lot, and a friend of mine was like, I gotta work, and, does somebody want my ticket for Rush? And I stood there and said, who's Rush? And everybody in the group looked at me with their jaw dropped, and they're like, you don't know who Rush is? So my introduction to Rush was the infamous November 1978 Hemispheres Tour show that's the bootleg from Tucson. I was at that show, and so my next day after the concert I bought Hemispheres in 2112, and that just, especially when you speak to the theme of what that story is about, the young guy finding the guitar and wants to save the world with the music, and the overlords are, telling him, no, it's evil, and stamp it out, and, but we all know who has to assume control in the end. No, it just, it's hard for me to not look past 1976 and not include Rush in there.
Right. Yeah, that's a classic one. I mean,
Yeah.
I got that on cassette in the 80s after a friend of mine on my 14th birthday in 1980. He got me Permanent Waves, and that was January, and then my birthday was in April. So, and how he, at that time, I was like going, why did you buy this for me? And then after listening to a lot of times, I go, okay, that's why. He had an inkling that was something that I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I just started buying all their stuff, and then got to 2112, and I was like going, holy crap. It's like, just even if they just put that out as an EP, just that 20-minute song would have been enough. But then they add a second side, of more stuff.
Right.
Uh, but that's definitely a classic. I always recommend that to people that if you like, if they say you like fog metal, I said this is probably one of the beginnings of
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
it. And
agree with that.
It somewhat reminded me of Cream, our trio, just going at it full bore. And that brought back so many memories. I mean, the second song I learned how to play on the guitar was Sunshine of Your Love. So I felt that vibe. And I just wanted to mention Kevin J. Anderson, who's the co-writer of several science fiction books, many of his own. He's on Facebook. He is a huge Rush fan. When Neil died, he thought he was going to go too. And now everybody wonders what the band is going to sound like with this wild chick on stick.
you never know. I mean, it's going to be different. That's all.
Yeah.
All it's going to be. It's going to be different, and it's just
Well,
the same as I'm sure they probably thought when
it wouldn't.
the original drummer was out. What are they going to sound like?
Yeah.
Sure.
With going forward, I would agree with you. However, I bet that the first one they're going to play in concert will sound like Neil was sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a little bit threatening, a little bit mind.
Well, the big part of that is going to be seeing Geddy and Alex
Yep.
doing what they love.
Mhm.
I mean, all the announcements that came out, of course, we all said Geddy was irreplaceable, but that doesn't mean that the two others shouldn't go out and play.
Right.
Yep.
So, keeping my fingers crossed that maybe Philadelphia is in my future. My wife and I are moving right when the tour is starting, so I had to
Oh.
I couldn't even look at dates for the first month of the tour. I'd be dead afterwards, so.
Well, it doesn't. It's not as much where you're moving as how close the airports are.
Right. Well, I will say, going from the abyss of a vast desert Southwest that hardly gets anything, I'm looking forward to moving to the East Coast, where a lot of the bands coming from Europe, they must think that North America is still only the 13 colonies.
Yeah,
Right.
To a certain extent, they do.
Right.
I went to school in El Paso, so we got in my time there Fleetwood Mac, Kansas, and Frank Zappa.
Yep.
And at the Fleetwood Mac opener was Kansas.
Oh, wow.
And after watching Kansas, Fleetwood Mac got halfway through one song, and I got up and left because I wanted to make it to the record store before it closed. And later, I talked with Kevin Gilbert when he was playing at Nearfest, and he said, "Yeah, that was the last time we opened for Fleetwood Mac." So I hope I was not partly responsible for that.
That's funny.
Mhm. But I know what you mean about the vast open spaces. I actually messaged Steve Hackett begging him to come to Omaha because we've got big enough stadiums and arenas, and people from 1,000 miles can make it here cheaper than they can to the coast.
Sure.
But
Did he ever go to Omaha?
no, yes,
Oh,
yes has been to the Iowa State Fair and to Omaha. the Iowa State Fair was the second time Billy Sherwood played bass in front of an audience for Yes,
Wow. Wow.
and I did not hear them miss a beat. So,
Awesome.
but good music is very hard to come by. I'm also pleading with Greg Spotton all the time. He doesn't fall in the venue's conversational limit. So,
Mm.
okay, back to me.
No, I mean,
Ah, speak up, Ron.
all right. Okay. Well, my next one, Hank already spoke about it, and it's two-for, but is Wind and Weather.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got this on cassette in the early '90s at this little record store in Los Angeles for 99 cents. Now, I knew the name Genesis, but I had no idea about that album. I figured for 99 cents, it's worth a gamble. I looked at the name of the song titles, didn't recognize anything. I was like, okay, so got home, put it in my cassette player, and I listened to it, and I was like, holy shit. I said, I did not know that they could sound like this. Because I'm just used to their MTV stuff at that point. And I got that, you remember those box sets that they had where there were actual boxes that had they're double CDs,
Yeah. Yeah.
and where they have like an extra, this has an extra DVD with, I guess, some videos on it.
Yeah.
And
Surround and all that.
and I didn't even know that they had the live box. And I looked to see the price of it. Now it's asking in the hundreds. I'm like, well, I like the band, but not that much. I mean, I didn't even know about that because I would have loved to have had the live box too to add.
Mm-hmm.
But there's great songs on it, and I read that some of it was, if not the actual songs, but the theme of Wuthering Heights,
Hmm.
uh, uh, or it was inspired by, just to. I'm sure whoever watches this, if they know the real story behind it, would be nice. Could put it in the comments for us so we can check it out at a later date. But if that's true, then this is a very British album.
Mm-hmm.
Every the way uh, the songs are, both instrumentally and lyrically, it has a very British feel. Things like that. Unless you were a prog fan and kind of had some ideas as to what's going on in Britain, um, you wouldn't know what the hell they were talking about some of these things. And so that's the one thing that I liked about it. It's almost like you're getting a little snapshot into their history. You know, uh, some say that this is that word pastoral,
Yeah.
and but it's just such a beautiful album. It was a little more subdued compared to A Trick of the Tail. Trick of the Tail had remnants of, the previous incarnation,
Hmm.
and this like going into towards the new. And I guess in some ways you can say that both Trick and this one, or could have been like the proto neoprog,
So
could have been proto neoprog.
I always thought of Trick of the Tail as Genesis punching you in the face to remind you that they were still here without
Yeah.
Peter Gabriel.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
over the top. So,
Yeah.
whereas the one after he left that really caught me, and I don't remember the name of the album, might have been that one. One side has this song, Poor Little Nemo, about being lost in the snow and whatnot.
Right.
I had seen somebody with a demo of Pensate, which is an early Apple game you could buy. It's like chess, but once you move your only piece, all the other pieces have to move on their will. But I wrote a version of that game to the second side of that album, and it always started with Poor Little Nemo in the snow.
Yeah. I think that song is off of Then There Were Three.
Yes.
So that would have been after even Hackett left.
Yeah.
Yep. But I actually didn't buy that one. I borrowed it from the library and was at the time married to a librarian. So it got refiled late with no expense. Of course, then she divorced me and I raised the child from there on out. So my son's 42. Gotta be identifiable to some of you guys.
Yep. My oldest is going to be 40 this year, so writing that one down.
Oh, my granddaughter's 9. She'll be 10 in April.
Wow.
Yep. Okay, did I cut you off, Ron?
Oh, you're on now. You're
Okay.
for your next pick.
Well, before I get to yet another Italian band that I'm just going to gloss over. So at 12, I had my guitar. I'm learning to play. At 15, my father, who's in the Army, a surgeon, gets assigned to England. And he's stuck at the embassy. I get interviewed at Eton after acing all the tests. And then the schoolmaster tells me that you cannot come to this school because you would be too disruptive. Because they raise British aristocracy from the ground up and they limit their focus. And the very fact that I could think out of the box made me taboo. I spent 3 years before at Landon in Bethesda, Maryland, all male, coat and tie. Teachers were called masters, modeled after the British school system, so that I would be the perfect candidate. I ended up 600 miles away, just southeast of Cambridge, at a little RAF base called Lakenheath, which is still in use. And if you look for stuff on YouTube, you can see that where back then they were flying F-100s. Towards the end, they had F-4 Phantoms. Nowadays, F-35s. But my first year at that school, I couldn't learn how to drive, so I went to Mildenhall, which is where they taught pilot education, and I got my pilot's license there. But Mildenhall also had concerts for the enlisted people. And I got to go to one since the guy promised to drive me back to base. And I had permission from the dorm guys. So I went to hear Hawkwind, where they were passing out LSD for free. And I had a rather great time listening to Masters of the Universe.
Nice.
And that was my first live show, other than symphony concert. Okay. So, having tried to make this as entertaining as humanly possible, we go back to what few people at all tend to understand. This is the self-titled from '76, Corte dai Miracoli, which is Port of Miracles. And this is another one. It's closer to Genesis but the phrasing is entirely Italian, not the shape of the way Genesis had been playing up till, and then there were three. Only has 4 tracks, long, very Mellotron heavy. Also on YouTube. And like I said, if you're ready to break out of things that were melodic by luck and luck alone, as most American rock music was, these guys got it in spades. So they are worth every minute of it. There's only I think it's a 4-member group, or maybe it's 5. Oh no, it's 6. Vocals, keyboards, second guy playing piano, organ, synth. The guitarist also doubles with a trumpet, and then there's bass and drums. But it has that whole sacred theater thing going on, just like the other one did. So, but if I had not been in England from June of 1970 to September of 1973, I would have never heard this. I would have had no idea who to listen to. So I got started on the first album of PFM, Storia di un Minuto, and both disc numero uno records, Per un Amico. If Manticore had not slaughtered them for the next series of releases, left them in a position where to go back to Italy they had to be more commercial, they would probably still be one of the greatest bands. When I met them near Fest, not only did Franco get up and shake my hand because I'd forgotten to bring the tattered album to, he then had everybody who was in the band at that time stand up and shake my hand. And you just don't get that kind of love from American musicians who'd probably just as soon splatter their beer on you or worse. But it did change the way I listen to music a lot. Yeah. And I think that was what was important. I found that as the noise ratio improved, everything got better. So, you ready to take it back?
All right, Hank, you're up.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that, mentioning all the Near Fest shows and, and Ron, our history goes back, I think was it Prog Fest or Cal Prog or one of those things back in the 90s?
I think it was Prog Fest. It was mid-90s.
Yeah, and it's, those series of festivals
now,
were
just... Don Kirshner used to do a show in California that was live on the Saturday night at midnight, and he
Don
had
Kirshner's Rock.
Other band.
Yes, he did. And speaking of Don Kirshner, then that's going to be a perfect segue to what ends up being next in my list, and I'll get the picture of the album in there if you can see it or not. That would be Kansas Leftoverture. That whole story behind how Don Kirshner got him to play. And Sean, to your comment about the beer, how they got everybody into an old hall and announced that there'd be free beer. So of course they're going to be get a rousing response from the crowd. But no, Kansas was one of those that, as I moved away from the AM radio and listening Fortunately, Tucson had a well-established album-oriented rock station, KWFM 92.9, and I won't forget the first time I heard that combination harmonic a cappella carry on our way, you know, and that was cool. And I bought the album, and the rest of the songs, it's like, okay, that one can be on the radio, but the rest just blew me. You know, people get into this argument of, is Kansas prog or not? Okay, if you have to make a separate category of American prog versus British or Italian, or, you know, that's fine, but the rest of the music on that album, and when you're considering, okay, classic rock, who the heck is playing a violin as part of classic rock? I mean, bringing in all of those elements, and the one that just splattered everything all over the walls around me was the final tune on that album.
It was term applied to Cars,
Oh,
the '57 Bel Air.
it hit it all. Magnum opus was you know, just howling at the moon. And I mean, my God, that album is deeply rooted and opened the door not so much to where Kansas would go, because in so many cases of the great music that came out in the 70s, the bands that continued into the 80s and 90s and beyond kind of, you know, they went their own pop, or, you know, did they sell out or not? But this gave me an opportunity to look back at Kansas's prior discography, and man, they've got some incredible stuff. And it didn't hurt that Steve Hackett pulled Steve Walsh to do the vocals for Narnia on his second album.
Right.
So, you know, that footed that voice in prog circles. But yeah, Leftoverture and the live, you know, Sean, you mentioned them on tour, and I caught them on that tour. And yeah, I mean, just that was cat's meow.
Powerful,
Yeah.
especially when you've been fed records about whiny kids, broken heart. Just not that world anymore. Thankfully, we grow out of it.
In that regard, yes. I'll take the music again.
Yeah,
Right.
well, the music has a tendency to stay with us
Yes.
no matter what happens. And in the right moment, we don't have to call it up. It knows we're there again.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how lately you've seen Steve Hackett.
Just this last tour.
He looks taller and stronger than he did when I saw him in the early 2000s.
Oh, yeah.
That guy must pump weights, take every longevity medication known to man, because he just refuses to age at this point.
Yeah, his relevant, the new material that's coming out, yeah, he's still doing it.
Still the guy. But Leftoverture, it wasn't a slap in the face. It was like somebody just picking me up and say, "Did you notice all the rest of this?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, if you haven't seen their documentary, I would strongly encourage it. It's it's a fun journey through their history.
Oh, and that's a good segue. Journey, looking to the future.
All right. I can see that one. Great.
I got that recently in the past 5 years. A lot of people kept on seeing it on Facebook, mentioning about it, and so I was really curious. They had the little box set with the 3 first albums, the paper sleeve, and listened to it. Loved the first one. This one I love too, and has a lot of great ones. The first side I like. The second side I love. And it has there's a controversy about Journey and Kansas with the
Ooh.
song "I'm Going to Leave You" by Journey and "Carry On Wayward Son" by Kansas. If you go and listen to them, they have a very similar that when they start kicking in, they don't have the acapella at the beginning, but when they start that guitar going with and the organ and everything, it's like they're while Kansas was more popular, Journey came out in January.
Mm.
Kansas came out later on in the year.
Yeah.
So there, a lot of people are speculating, were they listening? Was someone listening in? Or maybe
Um,
Kansas's manager. I don't.
oh,
They don't know.
it went on
It's a
super.
big thing.
There's an example with Spirit and Led Zeppelin.
Right.
The controversy over the beginning of their
Oh
way.
yeah. Yeah.
But
So they
the
that
road,
was that's the only thing that I was reading about that because when I heard that song, I'm like going, this sounds awfully familiar. Why does it sound familiar? And then all of a sudden, I said, okay, I got to find out what's going on here. And I thought maybe the would have been reversed, that maybe Journey heard Kansas do it, but it was it could have been the opposite way, or it could have been just a fluke that they both just happened to do it at, thought about it at the same time. Um, but like I said, the second side, the last three songs, "Look into the Future," the title track, and "Midnight Dreamer" and "I'm Gonna Leave You" are the prog stuff.
mhm.
Um, and it kind of goes back to what the first album. The first album um, was pretty much, it wasn't anything that could have been a hit. They tried to do hits on it. They had this one song called "On a Saturday Night," and "She Makes Me Feel All Right." I mean,
Hmm.
those could have been. I mean, in a just world, they would have been top 40 hits. But you know, they said something that after their third album that they were told that unless you get a lead singer, we're dropping the
Right.
lead singer. And I don't think that that's. I think there's something more deep rooted than that because there's been great bands that did top 40 songs and they didn't have a front. They were all, Fleetwood Mac, for example.
Right.
No one
Right.
just sat. I mean, even Stevie Nicks was doing something. She wasn't just sitting there holding the mic.
Boy,
Um, so I think um, I kind of call BS on that. I just think that they knew that this guy Steve Perry was going to bring something different for them, and they're not making any money on these three albums, so they needed to try something different,
Right.
and it worked for them that way. So everybody, you know, if you don't know about these first three albums of Journey, you got to go check them out.
I've got the first one is incredible, and the
Yeah,
second one, Neil Sean. I mean, his work on the guitar. Yeah, I mean,
I think this is my own personal opinion. It's like Neil Sean was a beast on the guitar, and for some reason, when Steve Perry came in, he was pulled back.
hmm,
He did have some moments, but it wasn't no longer. It was now more. We're mostly vocal oriented, even though
sure.
Greg Raleigh was doing a lot of the vocals on the first three albums,
Hmm.
but he could stop singing and it just the four of the guys just jamming out
Right.
and they'd be content. But now they have to focus on a lead singer, so that is my third one.
yeah.
Back to you, Sean.
Okay. Well, the radio was not designed to educate us. It was designed to keep us listening between commercials so we would buy crap.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until you got into either pirate radio, which I could hear in DC at 12, because they drive around in these vans and they'd be on from like midnight to 2:45 and then take the coffee break and then start broadcasting again from another frequency in another part of town. And if you had the list, you were fine. But if you didn't, you were just lucky to catch it the first time. And the police never really tried that hard to shut them down because half of the police were of an age where they wanted something more out of life because they knew it was life and death every day. And I know a lot of police who still like good hard rock to progressive music. Every one of them's got a bass or a keyboard or something in their home, but they're afraid to start a band. It will look bad for the police department. I've even had police hit me up for weed at times. It's terrible. It's such a fake world. And the pity was that he didn't have anything good to give him that time. It was ditchweed. That was all that was around. But he never asked again. So, let's see. I had finished up with, that was the Bonko. Okay. This album just like got poured into my heart and stayed there. It's by the band Celeste, another Italian band, and it's Principe di un Giorno, and it's from '76. There are only 4 people. There are no words, and oh, I just love where it puts. So, I mean, the words pop up to mind are pastoral, delicate, almost preambient, ambient, Italian symphonic minimalism.
Wow.
Instead of a guitar leading the songs, that's a flute. You know, and it's nothing about this going to get you excited enough to do more than walk out the door and stare at the wonder of the world. You're not going to be tearing down flags, shooting at people, or burning things. You will be calm and in touch with the universe. And that's why this is in my head, and I couldn't get it out unless I had a stroke. I swear, even then it'd probably still be in there. It's just, it's not a tranquilizer. It's an eye opener with no forced direction behind it. And so it got in my head and it stuck there. I mean, when I came back from England, the first thing I would do is I'd find out if the record stores handled imports. And I would give them the names of the companies. And I said, I don't care what this costs. If you will get me 1 album a month from these guys on this list that I don't have, I'll pay for it. I could have paid $100 in the mid '70s for this thing when it came out, but I'm damn glad I did because it put me in a whole different headspace. Not like drugs, not like religion, just awareness. Just powerful. You don't get that over here.
Sounds like we need to pipe that in so everybody can listen to it these days.
Well, um, it also is available on uh, YouTube. The band is called Celeste, Belest, and the particular album is Principi di un giorno, which my Italian has faded over the years, but it's like it could actually mean the principle of enlightenment, but don't quote me on that. Okay. So I'm going to back to
Hank.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, Sean, to hear your perspective on the Italian side of things. I know when you've mentioned Nearfest a couple of times, and definitely enjoyed Bonko and PFM, and really enjoy, because the contemporary, even album rock music here in the United States, I could easily argue that Italian prog rarely makes the airwaves over here. So it's good to hear that.
I
plug.
haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, exactly. It just although with the new prog channel on Sirius, my wife called it up, and I've actually seen some PFM pop up on that. So
Good. I hope it's
yeah,
early stuff.
pleased with that. But anyways, okay, Ron, you've put me in a spot, because
All right.
since I went double on the first, now I'm to the end of my list, which was supposed to be 3, so I cheated.
Right.
But I'll pull one out of that and say
Okay.
my next one, and it was so serendipitous because you had put out the note asking about 76, and I'm like, dude, you've asked me and we've dialogued, but I'm going to jump in on this one. And I'm thinking of all the albums of 76 that, go in there. Like I said, that was the year that my mind just exploded to music. And what did I get in the mail 2 days after our discussion about this recording? And I had just by happenstance had ordered a copy of the Blu-ray of Alan Parsons' Tales of Mystery and Imagination, and that was their first album. Big thematic emphasis on the writings of Edgar Allan Poe, lyrical stories from The Raven and The Cask of Amontillado, and where this comes in for me is, that 76 was the end of 8th grade, beginning of high school, and one of my teachers would play music in the background, and she introduced me to things like Jean-Michel Jarre and, some more electronic, Jean-Luc Ponty. But also, one of the albums that she brought in was Tales of Mystery and Imagination. I immediately fell in love with it. And I didn't even, in my head, I'm scrolling through, what am I going to do for my top 5 of 76? And I thought I had the list, and all of a sudden I got this package in the mail with the Blu-ray, and I'm like, oh my God, okay, I've got to put this in there. Because it just is, and especially hearing and I know some people scoff at 7 years later, Alan Parsons did a reissue of the album and added Orson Welles with his oratory to introduce the album, as well as the symphonic, mostly, that's on the second side. And I'll be honest, it takes me back to like Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds, where he's got Richard Burton doing the narration.
I was just thinking the same album.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when I heard that, I'm just like, oh my God. And a friend of mine, I posted that I got the album. He wrote back and said, "Well, I think he ruined it by putting Orson Welles in there." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So, you can debate whether or not Orson Welles should be in there. But he really, I mean, the way he speaks and that character it doesn't
Right.
exist anymore. And when I heard that, it's like, no, this album has got to be in the list for me.
Oh yeah. I had that on cassette, and I only got it because of the Poe.
Yeah.
I mean, because I saw that it was about Edgar Allan Poe and all of his works, and I was like going, okay, I like this. And the one song that kind of stood out for me and almost immediately was "The Raven."
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that raspy voice. I mean, it's like, holy cow. Cause, yeah, because someone before that was telling me. Because then again, I got into them in the '80s, so someone was saying, "Oh, if you like Pink Floyd, you like Alan Parsons."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay, I'll look through it." And I thought, "Okay, all right." And he told me the connection between the two, and I said, "Okay, I'll check them out." And I was just going through what was available, and I saw the cassette of Tales, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get that because that speaks to me right quick because I'm very much into horror movies, and
Hmm.
No kidding.
so
Where's the blood splatter in your room, by the way?
we cleaned it. We cleaned it up.
Ah, I see.
But yeah, that's a great one.
If I
I
die to visit you on my way to Bailey Island some year, it'll either be because I'm going as ashes or I don't want to reach there in ashes.
right.
I've tried a couple of Ron's movies, and I'll tell you, it's like I just can't do it.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Only the guy.
You can thank my father for that. You know, he
Well,
got
now,
me into
don't get me
into
wrong.
that
Universal
movies.
Monsters were great, man.
Oh
Frankenstein.
yeah, that
I ate that stuff up as a kid, and I would stay up late watching the scariest science fiction movies we could find at the time. You know,
right.
one where the brains and the brain stems are attacking the world and
Oh yeah,
stuff. But by the time Gojira took the stage, I was laughing.
yeah.
This is funnier than everything. And I still send Ron pictures where Gojira will be put on one side and the image of a trimmed tree will be there on the other.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you can tell who's who, but there's tremendous similarity.
Oh yeah. We used to have a tree up front, and they had to take it down because part of the branches took down the power line. So they said,
Yeah.
"Let's go." And I said, I yelled out, "You killed Godzilla!" But all right, well, get back over. I'm gonna switch a little gears here. Did kind of prog, I guess, adjacent stuff. I'll go with Rainbow Rice.
Ooh, yeah.
This was another one. I got into
I
them
didn't
in the
catch the
late
cover.
'80s. I got into them in the late '80s, and and it was weird. I heard the song that had "Since You've Been Gone" by Grand Bonnet to sing,
Hmm.
and I was like going, "Oh, wait a second. They have another singer, James Dio." I said, "I heard of Dio. I didn't know he was. I knew he was in Black Sabbath. I didn't know he was in Rainbow." So I was like, "Okay, gotta check this out." This album here, it was almost like night and day from the the debut. The debut, because of the keyboards, had a little bit of the I call them the old world force. Here we had the synthesizers coming in, and it kind of just brought it more. It's a little more modern sounding than the debut. I mean, the debut is awesome, but this takes it up to another level. And of course, it has Stargazer on. You know, that's that seems to be like any almost every metal band, if they're going to do a Rainbow cover, they'll pick Stargazer. Um, Tarot Woman also. It's a great album. And of course, Dio's mystical lyrics, makes it more fun. I mean, yeah, up at a lot of the rock bands were doing talking about the cars and their women and stuff like that. And it's like here now we're getting into fantasy, Dungeons and Dragons, wizards, fantasy themes, and going into the occult, tarot woman, things like that. And it's
But
like and
but deeper
touching
than
on
Uriah Heep.
yeah, and just touching on subjects that you know in music they're talking about this stuff in music. It's like for me it was something new. So this one um, was a late entry in um, because I thought I really wanted to include something had a little bit of rock into it, and uh, and it I would say that prog fans will like this because of the keyboards and Richie Blackmore's his neoclassical style guitar
Mhm.
playing. This one,
Hmm.
he didn't have too much of that in the first album, but in this one it had a little bit more, and it's like it just kind of took it like a new level. And then this this is the one that I believe um, launched that neoclassical metal scene that happened in the '80s with Ingrid Malmsteen and people like him, and
Dio?
where they got to play as fast as they possibly can, and it's like I I'm kind of on the fence with that kind of music, but this right here, I mean, this is just the beginnings of it, and it's done so tastefully that I enjoy it. So
Good.
that is my fourth one.
Okay. Last Italian band for this session, Area. The album is Maladiety from '76. 5 Italians, pretty straight instrumentation, but the character, avant jazz with radical politics, known in Italy as controlled chaos. And they use techniques to extend the vocal parts, completely unlike Peter Frampton. Okay, they're also out there to listen to. But if you want to shake your fist at the sky and say that the government must fall, these are your guys. This is the backing track you want. I'll leave it at that.
Nice.
Okie doke. The nice thing is that the next one is not Italian. So I'm down to earth a little bit. Okay, Hank, take her away.
All right. Well, just sitting here talking, my fifth was because the first was 2, my fifth was 3. But just talking, I'm like, okay, well, I've realized I am going to have a very clear fifth. and I'm going to do it with a short intro. Um, it was going to be Camel with Mood Madness. But the more I think about it, Camel really didn't hit me until their next album, I Can See Your House From Here. And as I'm sitting here thinking, nah, I could separate and say that's a fifth and a half. Because I love Camel. Andy Latimer is one of my favorite guitarists. But sorry, Andy, I'm going to have to nod you out. And for this discussion of 1976, for me, I'm going to have to sit here and say, and people are going to pick me on it, Starcastle's debut album. It just, too many people out there say, oh, they're a Yes clone band. And if you put that album on there, they don't sound anything like Yes. Okay, maybe a higher vocal voice, a higher pitch.
But
other than that,
right up there with the Italians and Yes and Genesis in a lot of ways.
well, and they never really got the full acclaim. Other than they seem to be uber popular up in the upper Midwest, Michigan area, and Ohio and all that, but never really hit the bigger acclaim that, frankly, I think they should have. A buddy of mine and I, we'd hang out and listen to tunes, and he was the one that turned me on to them. Shout out to Wooly. But that was an album that when I sit there and think about 1976, I can't walk away without listing that
I
album.
have a great story about how I first heard that album. I'll keep it short. First day on the job, a company called Auto Info. They have a product written in MUMP, which is a programming language from the late. My first day there, he says, oh, go in, take a look at the code. You can do anything you want. You won't hurt anything. So I saw this one line that was commented out. In the first program I looked at it, I uncommented it, and I ran it. It completely obliterated. It was gone. So they whipped out the tapes. They started reloading. Everybody started running errands and doing other stuff. My boss looks at me with his scowl, and he goes, you, come here. And we go out the side door, get in his little car with headlights that flipped up, and he starts driving down the road. He puts Starcastle on, and he says, there's pot and a pipe underneath the passenger seat. And we listened to both sides, smoked the whole way. And when I got back to work, I didn't care if I had a job. I was a happy guy. So, good pick.
That is funny.
Not many people start a job that way, but that was one of my more unusual ones.
Well, and if it includes Starcastle, that's a great story.
Yep. Well, does that bring us to Ron? Or
Yeah.
back to me? Come
Back
on,
to me.
Ron.
All right. My last one.
Hit me with your last shot.
My last one is Sweet. Give Us a Wink.
Yeah.
My good friend out in California, Steven, he told me about this one. I only knew about some of the hits. This one obviously has one of the hits on it, but this is an amazing album. It's one of those albums I gotta start, and the minute I start, I can't just like stop. So I gotta make sure I carve out about 45, 50 minutes so I can just settle in and listen to it and not be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
And also, great to listen to in the car, because it's a lot of fist pumping songs and great for driving. It has a lot of there's some bonus tracks, but it has a song, All Things, perfect for 1976, Fourth of July. It's got the Fourth of July song on there, so that was just perfect. That I was going, okay, during '76, gotta have
Nice.
it. Sweet. Um, and I like on the back. It feels good. Give us a wink.
Nice.
Those
Um,
days.
uh, Again, it's like this is uh, that glam metal. Uh, this is the precursor to glam rock. Uh, I always tell people, you like glam metal, you're gonna love glam rock. I mean, because this is where glam metal just kind of narrowed it down to a certain thing, whereas glam rock, there was other
Opened it up.
sounds going on.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It wasn't just, I mean, you had later albums of Sweet, you had keyboards in it, heavily into it. I mean, so it's like it wasn't a certain sound where more it was a movement of sorts. I mean, and I just it's just one of my favorite bands from the '70s, and I know they're still going strong today, even though they only have one original member. But their music, they put out an album I think a few years ago, or sooner, something like that, and they're still going strong, which is it's nice that bands do that. Uh, do they sound like they did in the '70s? No, nowhere near it. I hate saying it, they sound more generic than they did. You know, they just had with all the different vocals going on in the band. You had like the different personalities going, um, which that you not only got the lead singer that sing, he's obviously sing. You got the guitar player, and then I think the bass player does a little something, and I think the drummer does a little something. So it's like they all contribute vocals. And it's just a great band. I mean, if you, I always say this: if you like Queen, you're gonna love Sweet.
That's a great
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah.
And that's my last one.
Then why do I have two more?
Yeah, we picked,
So these two are both American and they're both kind of jazz. First one's Return to Forever, Romantic Warrior. Man, what a lineup. Chick
Yes.
Corea, Al Di Meola, Stanley Clark, and Lonnie Wright.
Right.
Just doesn't work like that anywhere else.
No.
And just to tack on the end here, came out in '76. Weather Report's Black Market.
oh yeah,
I cannot get the theme of Black Market out of my head ever. It's got Joe Zenwell, Wayne Shorter, Jaco Pastorius, Alfonso Johnson, Chester Thompson, and Alex Acuna. And just both of those albums are fusion jazz, and yet they could not be further apart from each other.
right.
And so it really kind of a different stereophonicness for the brain. Happen to have them both on at the same time for some unknowable reason. But those were my finals. My honorable mentions were Trick of the Tail, Gentle Giant's Interview, and I absolutely excluded CFM's Chocolate Kings because I just could not stand what Peter Sinfeld had been doing to me.
Right. Yep. Sometimes that happens. You know.
Yep. And as I've been sitting here watching this, I have distance problems and I can see anything I can't hold and read anything I can hold with glasses. So I somehow feel like I've spent the afternoon with Pierce Brosnan and Popeye Doyle.
Yeah, you probably did. You never know.
The question is, which one's which?
The hat's the clue.
Okay.
Gene Hackman was one of my favorites. So was
Nice.
Pierce Brosnan.
Nice.
Just thought I'd throw that in for excretion and giggle. This
Wow.
has been a wonderful experience for me. It's my first time. I've known Ron for years. But
Yeah, I appreciate you guys doing this.
Absolutely, and ditto, Ron. You've been pegging me for a while to join you on these shows, and I just I just don't do podcasts. But when I saw 76, it was like,
Right.
okay, I got to do this is
Right.
good. And the collection between the three of us was, the diversity. But I gotta say, I'm happy that at least all three of us mentioned Genesis. So.
well, and we all learned a lot.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to going back and playing this stuff.
I want to show you something that's sort of jamming me up right now. If I can get up without falling over. And point this thing the right way. I have this box that I started throwing things in for my 70th birthday, which was last year in May. And I haven't touched anything in it, but I've done terrific themes of cardboard. I know where to go, bring it back. What I do. I did something. Damn it. Anybody got a suggestion on how I bring this back on a...
I am not sure.
Push buttons.
Yeah. Well, and me being a computer geek.
Oh,
makes
there we
it
go. There we go.
There you go.
extra embarrassing. You know, I wrote my first Fortran program in 1967. So,
Hey, I can say that I've watched somebody drop a stack of cards, programming cards. So
Yeah.
I learned and did number mine from day one.
sister, if she ever caught a box of my cards, she would color on them with crayon, which would jam the card reader. And it's a very weird story because my father was a surgeon and he had been finishing up his plastic surgery residency at Walter Reed, and he was now a full-blown captain. He had a patient who had shrapnel removed from his leg but had scars and wanted them reduced. The patient caught me reading an ancient book on computers and asked him, would you like me to help your son learn about modern computers instead of getting a bottle of booze or a leather wallet? So he said, sure, knock yourself out. It was 2 years later in the 8th grade that I found out that that computer just happened to be the property of a company that was based in Langley, Virginia. And that somehow the running of my card set been at top priority. And I would take them, scribbled on notebook paper, put them in an interoffice envelope, give them to my dad. He would address, go over. The programmer would punch cards. they ran under his credits. And then I'd get back like a Snoopy calendar because that was the big thing. If you had a printed Snoopy calendar on Green Bar, you were a god. And
We are dating ourselves here.
Well, guys, I think on that note, I mean, thank you both for joining. I appreciate it. And
Thank you.
well, and if you can tolerate me, ask me back.
all right,
Okay.
okay.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Thank
welcome.
you, Ron.
Long life and prosper.
Yoo-hoo! Yes.
And rock on. Progly.
Absolutely. Well, we'll continue the conversation in a thread or something. Ron,
Yep.
good
Yeah.
seeing you, and enjoy. Sean, it's a pleasure meeting you. And
And you, Hank, and Ron, you're a lot more interesting than I ever picked up on Facebook.
well, and I'm hearing Buzz out front, so I'm going to
Yep.
peace out here. You guys
All
have
right.
a great
Yep.
day, and
I gotta
too.
Get
we'll
up,
catch you on the
do some chores.
side B.
Lucky me.
Hey, Ron, take care.
Yep.
Oh, you too.
Bye.